feel that they're out of control.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's why it's so important to remain transparent.
There's risk on both sides for either party involved.
That although we might put a lot more effort into the properties that we manage, we still have a baseline for the performance of our properties.
I've spoken to so many people and been like, they'll tell me that their property's not making money. I says, oh, so how much of a loss are you at? What do you mean by that? Welcome to the Property Project podcast, where we talk all things property, but also help you to resolve some of the dilemmas that you come up with.
But before you do that, we'd love if you could help us by liking the video, subscribing to our channel so you could get more content from us. We've had the question quite a few times about how to actually manage other people's properties. So when it comes to property management, you got people who think that they know how to do property management, but they're not doing it in the right way. You got people who, we've had questions of people who, may not want to get into it, have certain concerns, which is all legit. And that's fine to raise whatever concerns, because that's how you learn and grow. But I don't think that they understand the full extent of what property management comes with. I'd find that a lot of people you do get sometimes people who go into property management because they think it's the easier route to go into rather than going straight into rent to rent or rent to SA or whatever. Oh yeah, exactly. And I always say that I feel like rent to service accommodation, or rent to rent, you need to learn the foundations. You need to have done it yourself. You need to have thrown yourself in the deep end to learn exactly what to do and what not to do in certain situations. When you get to property management, you then adjust that because your assets are now not your assets, they're someone else's assets, and you have to protect that, and then you also have that versus your own portfolio as well. So that's what we have at the moment. And I feel like a big thing that people don't really understand is that even though it's not just the assets that you're managing, it's also the person that you're managing as well. So my question to you is, what's the first lesson that you would tell someone or teach to someone who said they wanted to get into property management?
That's a good question, actually. What's the first lesson I would...
Yeah, so if someone came to you and said, I want to do property management. What's the first thing whatever you think is the most common mistake that people make when getting into property management?
Not being transparent.
Okay.
I think that transparency needs to be had. And I know that's not like a skill or something that's needed, for the practical operations of the business. But I feel like it is important for you to be extremely transparent with yourself, with your numbers, with your bookkeeping, with your investor. So I think that's a big one. Another one that I think is being able to understand how to operate your own portfolio. Now, I feel like I'm more likely to go with people who have their own portfolio, just because I feel like there's more of an understanding of what's needed, and there's more of a pressure because it's your own money, it's your own kind of not more of a pressure, a different kind of pressure, where you have to make the money. But also, I think those are the main things. I think if you've run your own portfolio, if it's just one property, and being transparent, I think people really struggle with that. And the stories that I've heard, for example, one of the investors that we're working with, her biggest issue before we took over was that her management company wasn't transparent. And it's not even in a way that they were stealing from her. It's just the fact that they didn't tell her what things cost. Like they would send like a WhatsApp message.
It was diabolical. Like it was horrible. Looking at it now, and I'm just thinking to myself, like even the way that they would put down costs for things, it's like it was rounded up. Like when we do our bookkeeping and we send our bookkeeping, it's to the penny. And if it's not, there's a note section to say why it's not. This person would just type it in, probably while he's on holiday or while he's on, I don't know, while he's even, do you know what I mean? Like I honestly felt for this person who, we then took over. And it's I just think to myself, like there's other people out there who are probably managing other people's properties worse than this person was doing it.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? Because like the horror stories, when we speak to people that are having their properties managed and people don't even, they're not telling them why. If properties aren't making money, they're not telling them why or what they're doing about it. And that steps into the transparency side of things which you talk about.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, again, as a property management company, there are going to be times where you're not making money. Cool. Or you've done everything that you can and it's just not working out.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it might be the area, it might be the property, it might be the time, the season, the demand, whatever. Be transparent with that, because I guarantee the other person will respect that more than you just not saying anything or making up lies as to why it's not been making money. Sometimes you have someone who you're working with, and when they're asking you certain questions, and they're going to be asking you certain questions, but sometimes you might feel like they're breathing down on your neck or micromanaging you and stuff like that. And there may be reasons for that, because maybe you haven't given them that air of confidence in not just your ability, but the whole system in that you're managing.
Yeah.
And that, because when they start to ask certain questions, or you feel like they're constantly asking you, pressuring you to ask certain things, it's because they feel that they're out of control.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's why it's so important to remain like transparent in what you're doing.
And it's important to note, just as a side bit of information, joint venture partnership is two companies coming together, or one company with two people, however many people are in there, coming together, and the risk is equal, right? When it's management, you're taking on, as a manager, less risk, because regardless of the situation, you will likely still be making money, or at the bare minimum, not at a loss, right? So it's important to see it like that. And once you're in that kind of situation where you are consistently making money or never at loss, you've got to understand you're providing a service, right? So with that service comes a lot of expectations. And in order to fulfill those expectations, you have to have built-in transparency and trust with your clients that you're working with. And that's what people miss. Like that situation where that guy's just WhatsApping over bills, etc. What we've actually found is, for a whole year, that investor was not making money. A whole year, 12 months, they were not making money, even in the summer seasons. And now we've got to a place where they've made money consistently. I think there's only been two months
where
they've had to dip into their pocket.
And it wasn't a lot.
And it wasn't a lot. But also, that's going to happen sometimes in low seasons. And we always preempt it. You can tell. We always inform beforehand. When we see the months that are not going so well, if they're not going so well, why they're not going so well. For example, we had an issue with systems, and that impacted our bookings. That was one of the reasons why those 2 months that investor didn't make money. But now that investor's sitting with a 10 like just under £11,000 booking across 101 nights, where she's making consistent profit, doesn't have to dip into her pocket. And that's because that we were able to be transparent, tell her about her numbers, tell her about the location, what kinds of clientele she's going to be bringing in, what we can do to make the property better. So much so that the plan was for us to only take it over a short period of time. I think we were supposed to take it over 6 months. 6 months. We've continued taking on this property because we only wanted to get it to a level where it was making money, and then she would take it back over herself. And run it. But where we've consistently done a good job, she hasn't had to worry about taking it back on. In fact, she's been like, this is a really great experience. It's very hands-off. I'm making money. I'm not worried about the money I'm making. I don't have anything to worry about. You guys have it. And that's where you want to be with your investors. It's not always going to be success. We even have another property, which is technically a JV partnership, but it's important for you to understand you're not always going to make guaranteed money. There's risk on both sides for either party involved, but that risk has to be thoroughly explained and also thoroughly, consistently drawn upon. And what I mean by that is, the months where you're not making money, you need to be clear that this is an expectation that person has to understand is part of the business of running the business. You may have months where you don't make money, but what are you doing as a management company to subsidize that? Is that the right word?
Yeah.
To balance that out.
To balance it out, yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And again, it's about, for example, the months where we didn't make money, we clearly say, hey, this hasn't happened because we think because X, Y, and Z. What we're going to do next month to make sure there's an improvement is X, Y, and Z. That's what makes us stand out from the crowd when we're doing management. You may not always get what we've put down in profits or what we've said is going to happen within the deal, because life happens, things change in areas, locations, numbers, stats change, expectations change within those fields or areas, right? But what you will know from us is consistency and the fact that when you are we are struggling for whatever reason to get the numbers that we said we were going to get, there will always be a reason, number one, and there will always be a strategy out of that situation, number two. So make sure that you're able to provide that as a management company. Make sure that you're confident that you will explore every single possible option to make sure that your investor feels safe in what you're doing. Is that fair to say?
No, 100%. I feel like, no, you've hit the nail on the head. And I think that leads me on to kind of asking, do you think that it's actually worth it? So what I mean by that is, of course, going into that, managing versus having your own portfolio. Do you think it's actually worth it considering the amount of things that you have to control or that are out of your control, or, sometimes the micromanaging that can come with it, or, the people management aspect of it? Do you feel like it's worth it versus having your own portfolio?
Yeah, can I say this? I prefer it.
You prefer it? Why is that,
I don't regret having our own portfolio. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't continue to scale and have our own portfolio.
Yeah.
But I feel, weirdly enough, more effort is put into the management ones than it is put into our own portfolio. We will always pass on bookings. It's so weird. Again, the nicest, if you haven't watched that episode, I was talking about being too nice. We will always pass on bookings from our own properties to make sure that somebody else is benefiting from, the systems, the bookings, the clientele that we have. So for that reason, I will say I do prefer it, because I feel like we put a lot more energy, we put a lot more time. There's a lot more pressure, which makes us
I was going to say,
better.
that's probably the reason why, if we get someone like a direct booking come, we'll have a look firstly at the properties that we manage to put them in. You see what I'm saying? And I think it's because of not pressure in a bad way, but obviously we need to perform.
We understand the importance of handling somebody else's money.
You know what I mean?
That importance.
So then because of that, we then, obviously with our properties, it doesn't mean that we put our properties on the side. And funny enough, I know that although we might put a lot more effort into the properties that we manage, we still have a baseline for the performance of our properties, and they always exceed that. Do you see what I'm saying? So, and even if they don't exceed that, it's not like we're letting it slip or we're not paying attention to it. We still understand, we still treat it like, if we're having a look at the performance of our properties at the end of a month or something like that, we're always having a look at our properties as a whole. We treat the managed ones the same as we would with the ones that we have as well. So there's that aspect of it, and I feel like that causes a lot of people anxiety, the fact that, if someone's giving you a property to manage, you have told them, right, I'm going to make you money. Now it's like, if it's your property, it's like, all right, cool. If I don't make money, I have to, what's the worst that can happen? I have to dip into my pocket. Cool. I'm going to tell myself off, or am I going to berate myself? No, you're not. But when it's someone else, that now you don't want to seem like you've got expectations to uphold. So it's just that's next level thing.
I think when people do ask us what we charge, understand that you can't charge the same as the next person, because you've got to be confident in what you bring to the table. So when it's so interesting, because when people ask us, like, what should I charge? I'm like, this is what we charge, but we're confident in what we can deliver. So you have to go based on what you're confident you can deliver, what value you can bring to that person. If you know this is your first management property, and you're doing this as a gateway into your scaling your management portfolio, you need to be charging that 5-10%. You can't be charging that big boy 18% if you're not yet confident. Some people do that because they want the money rather than the credentials and the reviews and the shout outs of you being a really good manager. I know that, at least, because you can never have it always, right? I know that 90% of our management portfolio, probably more than that, 95% of our management portfolio would definitely recommend us to somebody else. 100%. We've had so many recommendations where people have come to us. We've even shut down people and said, you don't need us to manage this. You just need to make more time for your business. That's simple. There's no point me coming here to take your money, because at the end of the day, it would be too easy. Like, you should actually just stick to this, and this is what you need to put in your business. Somebody came to us the other day, one of like our close business friends, and was like, hey, I don't think I actually even told you. She called me and was like, can you take on this property for management? And I was thinking, why don't you? Why don't you do it? Do you know what I mean? Sometimes there'll be moments where we don't take on things because we know either you've got the credentials to do it yourself, or
you just need better systems.
Or it would just be way too easy. We didn't come we want the ones, come to us, if you got a property that's not making money and you can't work out why. Like, that's our strength. We will pluck out every single possible thought process, scenario, issue, and break it down till we get to the success.
Because I honestly think, 9 times out of 10, if someone like that criteria came to us and said, I don't know what's wrong, guaranteed, just without even looking at it, we could go and tell you why it's not working.
Yeah.
And I'm so confident.
3 months in the property and we'll be able to turn it around.
100%. I'm so confident in our ability because not just because, again, we've managed in where our main area is. We've managed in areas with so different demands. And we've always been able to turn it around, make money. Like one time we made an investor 45K in 9 months where they weren't getting anything. They weren't making any money. Do you see what I'm saying? And like when you think of it like that, where, and that was in the place that, exactly. And this is another place, another time where we were too nice. But again, I'm so confident in what we do, and that's why we can charge what we charge.
For sure.
You see what I'm saying?
For sure. So you definitely have to charge on value and what you can bring to the table, and your confidence as well. What would you say is a non-negotiable for property management? So let me give you an example. So my example, bookkeeping.
So you think bookkeeping?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because a lot of people probably don't even do their own bookkeeping.
Bruh.
A lot of people don't even do their own bookkeeping. They just see money come into their account and they just pay for whatever bills go out.
I've spoken to so many people and been like, they'll tell me that their property's not making money. I says, oh, so how much of a loss are you at? What do you mean by that? Oh yeah, so when you do your monthly, like, you know, what comes in, what goes out, like what are you left with? Like, what are you topping up? How would I find that out? Would you have? You have bank statements. And it's not even to actually even say that that's a silly question, because it's not. People don't teach you the importance of bookkeeping and noting things down. But that's what I think is a non-negotiable. Having the bookkeeping system in place, so not just for yourself, your investor can openly see what's happening with what's been charged, why money's coming in, why money's going out.
100%.
Paid to
100%.
How much your fee is charged, what you get paid every month. All those things are so important to have on the bookkeeping. But that's what I would say is a non-negotiable. What about you?
I think setting boundaries with the person that you're managing with. Because when you are managing, a lot of the time lines can be blurred. And sometimes you might have someone who asks a lot of questions. And asking questions is fine. But when you ask too many questions, then you go into, all right, am I managing for this person or am I mentoring this person on how to actually manage or do service accommodation? If you're now mentoring them, I'm sorry, but you're now doing another service which they probably need to pay you for. So you know what I mean? So having a firm line of communication, like for us, the way that we do it is that we have, let's say for example, we only speak during the week if there's something major that we need to talk about. Everything else can be left towards the end of the month, where
it's like a live document.
So we update a live document and then they can see the bookkeeping. They can make any notes that they need to. Every quarter, we probably have a link up to be like, you know, or a call to say, okay, this is what's worked well.
More so now, like being set on, so that there's further communication. Because another thing that we always are really key on doing is getting feedback from the investors that we work with. Like, what else could we do to make this service exceptional? And one thing that was fed back to us was making sure that we do like more intense check-ins. Like not monthly, because the monthly ones are fine, but what about reviewing the property at 3 months? Every 3 or 4 months or every quarter. So that's something that we've started to implement now, that will be like, okay, you're right, every quarter we should do a further check-in. What needs to be changed? What needs to be added in the property? What do you need to put more money into? What are we fine leaving at where it is? Do we need to change cleaners? Why do we need to change cleaners? And reviewing the property in further depth. But yeah, again, that's something we have been doing, but 100%. We're now consistently picking up and making sure it happens. Definitely. But yeah, I agree that that's definitely a non-negotiable of like setting boundaries, because we do have investors that we work with who will message you or like, and you can't help it, because again, what we've got to understand is there's an anxiousness or a nervousness about handing over something that's supposed to make you money. Imagine going to work, like Severance. Imagine if you haven't watched Severance, go watch it. But basically, the idea is your
other self
going to work for you, but you not knowing what happens when they go to work, when that other
you just have to trust that they're not out here getting involved in whatever they're getting involved
and not getting you paid. But imagine you had to allow somebody to get you to a place where you're being paid from work when you're not in control of that. And that's kind of how the management works. It's like you're no longer in control of your own property. Somebody else is in control of making you money.
Yeah.
And that's really difficult to let go of. So I understand the anxiety around it. However, firm boundaries are needed. And it's made us clash. Honestly, it's made us clash sometimes with some of our investors. Like, we've got investors that we really like personality wise, but when it comes down to talking about business, we really struggle with communication around that. And we've had to find a way to move forward, not take things personally, not make people think that, people think we're stealing from them because they want an extra document or something. And that can be hard, especially when you know in your personality that naturally you're someone who moves with integrity. Like, it can be difficult.
But I also feel like, again, that's where I always say, when these things happen, they're not happening because the investor's not attacking you because they don't like you.
Yeah.
It's coming from somewhere else, whether that's a place of insecurity, a place where, helplessness, of worry, all of those things.
It's not you. It
It's
could
not
be
you.
Another management company in your place in the same situation would happen.
Exactly.
Just because of how that person operates.
This is
what they want from the management. So the boundaries are so important to explain.
Exactly. And I feel like when you are in those positions, the best way to respond is take the emotion out of it, take the feelings out of it, and only respond on facts and figures. Because if you respond on facts and figures, people can say what they want. An investor can come back and rebuttal whatever, but they can't actually fully argue because the facts are the facts and the figures are the figures. If you start now fighting with your feelings, that's when you start going backwards and forwards, and something that could actually just be a simple explanation or a misunderstanding ends up being a bridge that's burnt. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's why I always feel like sometimes, that's what I always say, like, is setting that boundary.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's also kind of important to just make sure that with the boundary setting, that you also have an understanding around communication and what that looks like for each of you. Because like I said, again, we do have, an investor who's understandably very anxious and will message. The funny thing about running a business is you have access to both Sean and I. Sometimes what you think you want Sean to discuss is actually what I cover. So you're not going to access Sean because I cover that. Vice versa. There are times where you're going to speak to Sean where you may want to access me, but I'm not the person best suited to deal with the situation. It's actually Sean. And sometimes that can also be difficult for some of our investors. Because we understand how our system works. And it's not about the connection or who you've built the connection with. The fact of the matter is, this is what this person is good at. This is what this person is good at. And this is how we run our business. So sometimes that can also be difficult. But what we make sure that we do now is understand what communication works best for you. If you're someone who is highly anxious, who requires conversation throughout the week, then maybe it's like just a check-in on a Friday where we say, hey, this just to let you know, this is an update. We will do this. I'm not doing this every Friday. You don't get this, every Friday for the rest of the year. I might do this for the first 2 months, 8 weeks, for you to understand that you are in good hands. We are looking after your property. We want you to win, because if you win, we win. Our pockets get lined too. Once you're comfortable with that, and we can review it after the 8 weeks that you are fine with the systems that we've put in place, then we reduce that and you're back at ease. But we're learning that just because of how we work doesn't mean the people that we bring in work the same way that we work and like how we work. They they like what we do based on our results, not our communication.
Not how we
run things. They like our results. So going back to the basics of understanding how to communicate with our investors is so important, because now we've deeped. You're not here because you like our communication. You're not here because you like how we run our business. You're here because you know
like the results.
X amount. You've seen on our stories. You've heard from word of mouth.
And you want a piece of it.
Someone
that's okay.
Working with us recently who's got a property in London. They were not making any money at all. Again, not bookkeeping. Had no idea how much money they were losing. And it's so important when your business is losing money to know why, where, how it's losing money.
This is it.
We did bookkeeping for her from when we took over.
Yeah.
She's actually sent us a message asking for us to do.
Well, to be honest, from before. So we done something where.
Oh yeah, little
because they
more though. So she sent me a message asking for the bookkeeping to go back
when they started.
First started.
Okay.
Yeah, but
right,
it
cool.
shows that. We're gonna have a conversation about that. It shows the importance or the information that's needed for you to operate. And I like that because it makes me understand that you understand why we're doing what we're doing as well.
Yeah.
But within that, again, the last few months that she's been working with us is the first time she's actually seen money go into the property and not come out of the property.
Yeah.
And that's because we know what we're doing. So when we charge what we charge it with confidence because we know what we're doing. But yeah, I think essentially when it comes down to management, you need to know that you have all the tools, all the ingredients to make the recipe, and not just make it, like bake the cake. The cake has to taste sweet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's got to fulfill the expectation of the investor.
I also think that something that's very important as a management company is understanding, I think the foundations, the basics. So one, that's how to price.
Yeah.
Understanding your pricing, how to price, how to set up your calendar, how to advertise and market. Because a lot of people just slap up their listing and expect it to just do its work.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. Understanding how to automate as much as possible. And obviously the bookkeeping as well.
And order,
so and order. And then again, even with the bookkeeping, that probably comes under finances, but understanding exactly
audit.
So literally how to audit and how to separate your money from their money, or maybe different clients, because you might have different clients on your books, but how to separate those bits of money and understand what goes where. And there's so many things to it, but it's not something that is unattainable for you to be able to do.
Yeah. It's actually
you just need to go to the right places to understand it.
Yeah. And
right places.
Yeah. And again, that's even we did a masterclass again and spoke about, how we kind of get people to understand how you systemize things in your property business, right? And again, with our 90-day
property power up.
Yeah, property power up, which essentially is just 90 days of working with us. And then you get to understand how to not only list, market, and optimize your properties, but how to do that for somebody else as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of what people miss is like you said, they slap up the listing, but they don't understand each of your listings needs to be different, regardless of the area. We have how many properties in Reading, right? But all of our listings essentially deliver something different because we understand what the market needs for our specific clientele. And that's what people are missing. It's not just about slapping the listing up. It's about what that specific listing needs in order to draw in the clientele that you're looking for. When you're thinking about pricing, it's not just about being, competitive with your pricing. It's about the type of pricing that would intrigue your particular clientele.
Yeah.
If you've got contractors and you've got big contractor stays of 10 people, they're not just looking at your price. They're looking at your price divided by 10 people.
Yeah.
You've got to understand what your pricing brings for your clients.
100%.
So, again, if that's something that you're wanting to do and you're wanting to scale up with your management, essentially we can teach that, but we can teach that to people who are understanding that it's not just about throwing something up there, creating something and letting it seeing what happens.
Or go in the management route just because they can't be bothered to do their do the hard work. And get their own property portfolio.
You can work with us, but what we're looking for with working with people are people who understand that when you're taking on somebody else's property, there is a risk there, and you've got to be understanding and hardworking around that risk. But essentially, that's what it comes down to. So if there are further questions about how to manage, how to scale your management portfolio, how to make money through management, and again, diversify your portfolio as a whole, then just drop us a message on Instagram. You can email us. Our telephone number is also on our Instagram page as well.
Don't contact us through the telephone. No, either email or go through the school community. Join our school community.
Well, it's on there.
Huh?
You can't tell them not to. It's on there.
What's on there?
Telephone numbers.
Don't contact us because you won't get a response straight away. Anyway,
but the fact of the matter is, contact us. He's obviously I don't know what's going on. Who upset you? What happened?
No, but yeah.
it's just,
you know what? It's just more. Yeah, from the previous episode where I feel like people who have people misuse it.
Essentially, you can contact us for any of those means to kind of go through, you know, how to get ready, get your management portfolio or your management company ready to take on, you know, properties, investors, where to find them, how to scale up, how to list, how to guarantee results with your investors, how to make them confident in what you can deliver, how to charge, how to position yourself. All of this is included in the 90 days, and we can get you there as long as you're the right kind of person that we're looking to work with as well. So if you are interested in that, contact us through Instagram. We will get back to you and let you know how to get started in the next cohort with us and go from there. But I'm really hoping that you take some of the gems today to implement them in your business so that you can scale up and be successful within your management company.
100%.
Good luck.
Thank you for watching to the end, guys. We really appreciate it. As a little thank you gift to you, we would like to give you an invite to join our free WhatsApp community where we drop a lot of gems.
If you're still watching, then thank you so much. But more importantly, if you could like and subscribe to this channel to help us bring you more content that we know you'll just love.